Hi, local Kingston business owners. Thank you for accessing our presentation through the Greater Kingston Chamber of Commerce's Member Exchange. My name is Lauren, and I'm joined by my colleagues.
My name is Simrat.
Raphael,
and Margarita.
We are first-year law students at Queen's University who have prepared this presentation on navigating municipal laws under the supervision of a Kingston lawyer in collaboration with Pro Bono Students Canada. In this presentation, our team will provide a comprehensive overview of what small business owners in Kingston need to know about municipal law. A disclaimer before we begin that this presentation is not legal advice, and we always recommend consulting a lawyer when navigating these processes. We will first define key terms and introduce you to important legislation governing this area of law. Then we will review licensing and zoning requirements and discuss funding options. We also provide information for further resources you can access to get more information about each of the topics we discuss.
To begin, it is important to consider which business type applies, as each of these structures have implications regarding their benefits and liabilities. A sole proprietorship is a business owned by one person and is the easiest and most common way to start a business, especially for small businesses and for individuals starting out. Some advantages of a sole proprietorship include the owner having full control of the company, the owner keeping all of the profits, and it is easy and affordable to set up. A major disadvantage of sole proprietorships is that the owner is personally responsible for all debts and losses, whereas a partnership is a business owned by two or more people who share responsibility for running the business. The advantages are similar to that of a sole proprietorship, except that in addition, the owner can each contribute either skills and ideas. The key disadvantage for partnerships is that all partners are responsible for losses, meaning that if your partner incurs debts for the business, you would also be liable. Whereas a corporation is a legal entity that is separate from its owners. This means that the business itself is responsible for all debts and obligations. Businesses can choose to incorporate federally or provincially, depending on where they want to operate. The primary benefit of this type of business is that owners have limited liability, meaning that their personal assets are protected. Another benefit of this is that corporations also have typically greater access to funding, investors, and grants. The main disadvantage of a corporation model is the larger upfront cost.
municipal law is governed by two categories of legislation. Acts or statutes are laws which are passed by Parliament or provincial legislative bodies. Bylaws are laws passed by a local authority or municipality. While this is not an exhaustive list, the legislation most relevant to your business from a municipal perspective are the following. The Municipal Act is arguably the most important as it gives Ontario's municipalities their legal authority to govern local affairs. It gives municipalities broad powers to pass bylaws on local matters. The Building Code Act regulates building construction, renovation, demolition, and changes of use. The Planning Act sets the ground rules for how land is planned and developed, and also requires that municipalities adopt official plans and pass zoning bylaws. The Fire Code sets the fire safety standards that apply to buildings and premises in Ontario. As mentioned, the Municipal Law Act is the source of the municipal government's power to impose bylaws and regulations. A municipal government's jurisdiction is limited to how much the provincial government chooses to delegate to it. In recent years, the courts have leaned towards embracing a broad and generous approach to interpreting municipal powers. A Kingston case is one of the most recent leading decisions demonstrating this. We'll cover this case later in the presentation. While every municipality will pass different bylaws, the types and reach of the bylaws they can pass are largely the same, as those powers are delegated to them by this Act. The so-called strong mayor powers are a set of these powers and incredibly relevant to your business. They were enacted in Kingston as of July 1st, 2023. They grant the mayor additional responsibilities and discretionary powers to streamline local governance. The mayor can force a vote on any particular matter if the mayor believes it could potentially advance a prescribed provincial priority. Bylaws only require 1/3 of council votes to pass. There are currently 13 voting members on Kingston City Council, the mayor being one of them. Any bylaw proposed by the mayor under the strong mayor powers only needs 5 votes to become municipal law in Kingston. The mayor proposes the municipal budget for the council's consideration and can veto amendments passed by the council. The City of Kingston credited the strong mayor powers in the announcement of its 2025 budget, which included a municipal operating budget of $506 million, a municipal capital budget of $131 million, and a 6.3% property tax increase. So, what does this mean for your business? Mayoral elections could have a significant impact on your businesses with little available pushback or recourse. Ensure you are keeping up to date with candidate platforms leading up to elections. Also, keep tabs on the mayor's viewpoints, which might impact your business. Additionally, you can request to make a brief presentation to the City Council or a committee by submitting a delegation request through the My Kingston portal.
Now we will just be moving into some of the everyday aspects of running a business in Kingston. And so we've just listed a few different business license fees depending on the business type. And some common business types include food service, which has a fee of $132 to $518, salons with an $88 fee, automated repair with a $90 fee, and lodging houses with a $172 fee. And for details specific to your individual business type, we would recommend looking at the City of Kingston website, which also provides more details on the business license fees, as well as more details on the case-by-case situation. And now moving on to some funding tools. As many of you business owners already know the different traditional avenues for looking into funding, we decided to introduce you to a different type of tool that you may not have known about before, and it's called the Business Benefits Finder tool online. The Business Benefits Finder tool is a tool created by the Government of Canada that allows business owners to search for tailored programs and services. So some of these could include grants, funding, loans, capital investment, tax credits, wage subsidies, insurance, including expert advice, partnering, collaboration, researchers, and facilities. So this is just a really great way to find resources you might not have known about previously, and also to tailor your funding opportunities to your specific business needs. Similar to this, we have also looked into a few different types of legal resources that you might want to look into, such as the Queen's Business Law Clinic, Pro Bono Ontario, and then also the Legal Aid Ontario Service Finder tool. This is similar to the other tool where you can tailor it to your specific legal issue as well as your location and be able to find a match that best suits your needs. And now we will provide a very quick overview of some federal tax considerations that you are likely already aware of. The best source of information for federal taxes is on the CRA online website, as well as registering for the My Business account through CRA Online. If you are a sole proprietor, you must report your business income on your personal income tax return using the T1 income tax and benefit return. The Form T2-125 would also be applicable. Whereas if you are a corporation, you must file this personal income tax return separately and also file a corporate income tax return as well. You must file this every year, even if there is no tax payable, and for tax years post-2023, you would have to file this electronically. And if you are currently looking into registering your business, you would actually have to register online on the CRA website, because as of November 3rd, 2025, registering over the phone with CRA is no longer available. As you are looking into your tax return, there is a particular line that would be beneficial to focus into, and this is line 9180 on Form T2-125. And this line allows individuals to deduct expenses for their business use of home. So if this is something that is applicable for you, this would be something to look into. Some other tax benefits would include the tax deferral program, tax increase deferral program, heritage property tax refund, and the heritage property grants. The Heritage Grant Bylaw assists owners with 50% of the cost of approved conservation or restoration projects, while the Heritage Property Tax Refund Program offers a 40% tax refund per property for properties with a heritage easement agreement. So these are just some programs we would recommend looking into, and now we will just be moving on to some business requirements per type.
So regardless of the type of business you are opening, there are requirements that each type must meet. So here I provided a checklist mirrored from the City of Kingston website with each of the requirements attached to any business type. And just to keep in mind, this isn't necessarily a timeline, but just provides a general idea of the steps you should take. But just keep in mind that you may be engaging with each of these processes at the same time. So the city makes it clear that your first step in opening any type of business is to contact their licensing team and speak with an agent. This initial conversation will introduce you to the system and provide you with a contact person if you have any questions throughout the process. Registering with key organizations will be next, and this requires contacting a few different agencies. For example, a vendor permit must be obtained from the Ministry of Revenue, and you will also contact the Registration Department at Revenue Canada for harmonized sales tax. Your business name and registration will occur at any Service Ontario location. And at this stage, you will also likely contact the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario if you're planning to sell or serve alcohol at your business. In considering where you will be operating your business, you also must consider applicable zoning bylaws. I've listed some key sections that may be relevant as you review applicable legislation that governs your neighborhood. And fourthly, a building permit also must be issued to you. A building permit is a document issued by the body responsible for enforcing Ontario's building code in Kingston. It ensures compliance with the OBC and is important in protecting the interests of yourself and the broader Kingston community. If you're planning to make any changes to your property or just use it in a different way, you may require a building permit. And in fact, building code permissions may be required even if you aren't physically planning to construct anything on your property. Then lastly, in conjunction with the building permit, you will need to get a fire inspection to satisfy the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. And if you are leasing your premises, you may need to get these fire inspection documents from the property owner. And just beyond these permits and inspections, your business will need a license, which is also obtained through the city. We encourage you to review the City of Kingston website, which has further details on these requirements. And most of these registrations and licenses can be obtained online. Depending on the type of business you intend to operate, there may be specific requirements. For example, food services represent a large portion of Kingston businesses. You may fall into this category if you meet the definition of food premises outlined in Bylaw 2006-213. The key requirements specific to food service businesses are liquor licensing and patio licensing. You also may require signage permits if you are constructing permanent signs to advertise your restaurant. These applications can be submitted via DASH, which is the Development and Services Hub, which allows you to conveniently complete many of these applications online. Salons also have specific requirements to operate and are defined under the same bylaw 2006-213. Key considerations here include whether or not you will be providing services to minors.
The next section of the presentation will describe the Kingston Official Plan, which outlines land use regulations. The official plan is not a zoning bylaw. Rather, it is a document that sets out policies and outlines the overall vision for land uses. Zoning bylaws then must conform to the official plan. Understanding the official plan is relevant to businesses because it outlines permitted uses and other regulations for use. The Kingston Official Plan organizes commercial areas in 6 designated areas. Namely, they are the Central Business District, Regional Commercial, Main Street Commercial, District Commercial, Arterial Commercial, and Neighborhood Commercial. The Central Business District is the primary business area, and it is located center east of Division Street. This area is to be used for specialty shopping, convenience shopping, tourism, entertainment, arts and culture businesses. Key considerations include adhering to the historical character of the area and not interrupting pedestrian flow to allow for ground floor commercial activity. Next, The regional commercial designation refers to areas like Cataraqui Center. These areas are used for large retail centers that provide the local population with necessary goods. Key considerations include not negatively impacting the central business district and not overburdening existing road capacities. Next, the Main Street commercial designation. 3 areas have been identified: the Williamsville, Montreal Street, and Portsmouth Village Main Streets. Lands with this designation are to have businesses that serve surrounding neighborhoods. This includes personal services and retail businesses, and these areas can also be used for health and community purposes. Key considerations for this designation are Main Street specific. For example, businesses on the Williamsville Main Street should be pedestrian-oriented, and businesses in the Portsmouth Village Main Street must consider the historic character of the area. Next, the arterial commercial designation. This includes the Princess Street corridor, Highway 401, and the division areas. This area is used for businesses that are highly visible and provide easy access to the traveling public. Think hotel and restaurant areas where travelers can easily access goods and services. This designation also includes businesses that require large outdoor displays, like car sales businesses. Considerations include needing market justification and market assessment regarding transportation and impact. Next, the neighborhood commercial areas are typically located on corners of collector streets. Businesses in this area generally provide convenience goods and services. A key consideration in this area, for example, is that setting up ads should be compatible with residential use. Businesses that don't fall in the other designated areas and are instead operated through one's home have considerations including limiting the number of workers that do not reside in the home where the business is operating, and being mindful not to disrupt one's neighbors through excess noises or odors.
The bylaw setting out development fees and charges sets out that every owner of land in the City of Kingston must pay to the city a development charge as calculated in this bylaw whenever the owner's lands are developed. On the slide are a list of services which might incur a charge for your business if you require them, including fire protection, policing, wastewater, and water services. This brings us to Stelmach Project Management Limited and City of Kingston, a recent case from 2022. In 2014, Kingston enacted 2 bylaws, the Impost Bylaw and Development Charges Bylaw. Stelmach owned 2 multi-unit residential properties and was required to pay $410,000 in fees to Kingston to cover the capital costs associated with installation of water and sewer infrastructure. Stelmach argued that the bylaws were invalid and therefore the city could not force them to reimburse the costs. The judge concluded that Kingston, like all municipalities covered by the Municipal Act, had multiple sources of powers to impose fees and recover capital costs. Stelmach lost its appeal. What did this mean in terms of costs for Stelmach? They were required to pay the contested fees of $410,000, had to reimburse the city's legal costs of $17,500, and its own undisclosed legal costs. What are the key takeaways of Stelmach for your business? To minimize your development fees, consider locating an existing premise connected to the city's water and sewer infrastructure, as well as ensuring that the premises infrastructure is well maintained. If your business plan requires the development of a new site, ensure that development fees are included in your budget for any work that the city must complete to connect your business to its infrastructure. Bear in mind potential service fees such as fire protection, policing, ambulance, and stormwater. See if your business qualifies for an exemption on the City of Kingston's website, linked there. More importantly, while this case revolved around development fees, its main importance for understanding the importance of municipal law is understanding the strength of the municipal government's power as delegated by the provincial government and recognized by the courts.
If you would like to provide feedback to Pro Bono Students Canada on our member exchange webinar, you can scan this QR code here. Thank you for tuning in.